So,
Therapy dudes, take away your stress, put you in a good mood. If you had them over, they would eat up all your food. It's time for therapy dudes.
welcome. We are Therapy Dudes. I'm Dan Fox with Andre Karkamaz. We're sponsored by Boulder Psychological Services. Check out boulderpsychologicalservices.com for all your therapy needs. Andre, hello. Today, I'm
Hello.
very excited about this topic, although I kind of dread it too, because it gets into some of the things that are most distressing and stressful for me, like the kinds of things that I don't know, when I look at all the different types of things that can like really kind of stick in my mind and get me
Mm.
off my game. The deepest ones are things that have to do with my kids and
Yeah.
worrying about them. So as a reminder to the listeners, I have four children. They're between the ages of 13 and 20. Two of them are at college, two of them are, in school locally here, one eighth grade, one 10th grade. And I guess to before we get into specifics about my situation, I think the larger issues that I've been seeing with adolescents and people trying to kind of launch into adulthood is that it is a much harder process these days than it was back in like my adolescence and early adulthood as a Gen Xer, and certainly you a few years ago when you were trying to figure out how to become an adult. And wow,
Only a few years ago.
two stars, one
So
star.
that was pretty good.
Nah, it was it's just the
You're
age
trying.
groups are they really have to be like well
On point.
weaved into the conversation to get
Right.
5 stars, and that one was just like I don't know. I just
You tried.
it was there.
I
I
mean,
think
that wasn't even an insult. That made me feel good about myself.
oh nice. You're like I still have my youth.
I still have it. Unlike you. I'm
Right.
kidding. I'm
No,
kidding.
I
No, you
saw
do.
I looked in the mirror yesterday and
Uh-huh.
there were these new wrinkles around the sides of my eyes that I had never seen before. And I was like, oh my God, like was I squinting all day? And that's just like
I
from
don't see
the
him.
day's squints. Well, I
Okay.
have the
There's
filter on.
Botox.
I have the filter on for our Zoom thing.
Yeah,
That
but I see you in person and I don't see those. We're gonna give you some Botox. That's it. So you won't feel bad about yourself.
I'm so never doing Zoom.
Yeah, I
Let me
know.
just like wrinkle up into a paper bag. I don't.
Okay. You're not that old. And plus, you played well this week, so you were on my team.
I was feeling it. And I know in a previous podcast we talked about that guy who has pushed me twice, and
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
ready for it on Friday. And he came after me and tried to
Uh-huh.
push twice in one play as he was like driving to the basket. And I just
Right.
held my ground. It was like boom, boom, and like I've leveled up to be able to figure out how to just like
Push back.
be aware of that. Yeah. And
Yeah. Did you see
afterward,
the guy that I couldn't defend because I knew he would get really angry and he made a shot on me? I just stood still and then he screamed, "There can only be one." Did you see that?
I heard that scream. I didn't see all the details leading up to it, but
I was
that makes
literally just
a
standing
ton of
there.
sense contextually because yeah, when I guard him, I just give him an extra little buffer for his psychological well-being and
Yeah.
my
He
own
needs it.
conflict avoidance.
Yeah. But the theatrical response to making a shot while I stood completely still under the basket so he can do it. That was very, I just knew he needed it. I was like, "Yes, you did, big boy. You
Yes,
made it."
yes. No, it's good. I'm glad you did that for him. Like, I mean, I truly love that dude and
I do too.
want him to just be able to like get whatever he needs to get out of the experience and
Well,
not
I
be
noticed that people who have that kind of issue, the anger outside of basketball, and then, they feel comfortable with me because I'm kind to them. They also feel comfortable enough to express that kind of ego side of them to me.
yeah.
I'm just so used to it. And I'll start to laugh a little bit, but with him, I didn't laugh. I waited for him to turn around and then I smirked a little bit because it was kind of funny. And then he looked again and I looked up at him all serious. I was like, and I gave him the thumbs up, like, good job, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, and then that was it. But he's such a good guy. Like these people are hurt. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. And I don't know. I feel like definitely at the stage I'm at, I just want to get some exercise without being injured. And if I get sort of pulled into that kind of competitive anger, whatever thing, I just try to check myself because it's like,
Right.
this is
That's why
not
you
why
never jump for a rebound.
that is a lie.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's 2 stars, top 1.5 stars.
1.5. That didn't even count. But anyway, back on track with the disappointment of life and children.
Right. So it is absolutely true that our kids are having a much harder time, the Gen Zs and now the little Gen Alphas, um, figuring out how to navigate today's world, whether
Yes.
it's the narrative about how there's kind of this apocalyptic doom coming with World War III or Civil War or school shootings or global warming or the financial equation being so difficult that it's going to be hard to be successful or AI taking over all the jobs and
Right.
them not having like clean water in 20 years and things like that. So to have this sense of like, oh, you're going to be better off than your parents, which was the narrative for every previous generation, like probably since the Industrial Revolution in this country. And
Mm.
now it's not that way, right? The kids don't think that. They feel like things are on the downhill, and it's hard to debate that, even though I like to, because I feel like that's actually not like there's still plenty of ways to like go out and hustle in your corner of the world and have a great life. But that's not the messaging, and that's not the only challenge that kids are facing, right? Like if I had a phone in my pocket and a vape device in my other pocket as a teenager growing up, I would have had a really hard time just being able to actually like move my life forward in terms of like the external challenges and meeting them with a lot of hustle, and also just learning how to like navigate my mind and manage my different emotional states, because both of those things I think are really like slowing down people's ability to have a good like social and emotional development experience because they're like very convenient escapes that are in their pocket.
Hmm.
And being able to like get out there and really understand like how to hustle when there's things that are really entertaining on your phone or on your computer games is very tricky, right? There's a lot of time and
There's a lot of
energy
traps,
that are just sort of lost to entertainment media.
which doesn't prepare you for the real world, right?
Right. Right.
And that's why they feel so lost because they're so addicted to these patterns.
Yes.
I actually feel I think this generation is struggling for all the reasons you mentioned, and it's really hard for them to find hope or direction.
Yeah. And, I actually had this conversation with a family in my office this past weekend where the parents were wondering, like, hey, when we were growing up, there was just kind of this, like, let them figure it out, a laissez faire parenting approach of just like hands off. They'll just,
Yeah.
have some hard knocks and level up and figure it out. And the parents were wondering, like, should we do that or should we be more involved in trying to like help them to get organized around their school obligations or around finding a job or managing their time. And the the significant difference for me was that I feel like the we're not comparing parenting styles with equivalent experiences for the children, right? Back in like the 80s versus now, I think it was much easier as a kid to launch. Like when I wanted to try to figure out how to find a job, it was like really easy just to walk around my
Hmm.
downtown,
Hmm.
go into a couple of stores and get a job, right? It would be like
Yeah.
one afternoon of like
Simple.
a couple hours of hustle and I'd nail it like each time. And it wasn't because I had some like, I don't know, special like charisma or something. It was just that that's like what everybody experienced, that there was like a lot of this stuff out there and easily available. And that has not been my experience trying to help kids find jobs in the last couple of years, which has grown exponentially as a topic in my therapy work. Like I'm like a job coach now for many kids who are trying to
Right?
figure out how to weed their way through indeed.com or other job platforms like that and somehow be able to like get the attention of the employer, get an interview and get a job. It's been really, really
I can't tell you
difficult.
I totally understand. I can't tell you how many kids or like young college students I've turned on to like Home Depot or something because my dad, he was a store manager, and I would just be like, look, I can connect you with him, but I would need an ROI. I would have to sign an ROI and be like, do you want a job? Because I can help you. It got so bad that I was like sending people to him, you know? And I'd have to have them sign an ROI so I can like talk to my dad and be like, can you hire this client, basically. And even jobs on that level are hard to obtain right now, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, in the experience that I've had with my three kids who are of job age at this point and looking for summer jobs, it has been very uphill with very little traction and one
His is
kind of
probably great.
just like soul crushing for me moment where one of my kiddos who has spacey ADHD, that's a highly technical psychological term, spacey ADHD.
Spicy.
You can find that in the
Is there
DSM.
a different type?
uh, well, it's like ADHD non-H is the, I think, official way that
Oh,
they label it these days.
I see.
Non-hyperactive. Um,
Right. Okay. Just
so
spacey.
the and this one I feel like would have been very hard for like I could have easily missed it the way that she missed it, which was that Google now is like sorting your emails into more and more like folders and things. And the email response she got from this internship that she was like eminently qualified for, the email itself was like, wow, you're like a great candidate. Please like sign up for one of these interview slots. Looking forward to like talking with you. And that went into this weird folder marked like important and never came up on her regular email feed until she went and did like some deep dive and started like hunting around. And then like 2 weeks past when the deadline was,
Oh
found
no.
it and was like, oh, this sucks. And then was like very, sort of like frustrated and self-aggressive and all that. And I was just like so crushed on her behalf because it's a very hard to find niche internship. And it also happened to fit with this like she's doing like field work for her biology program in the
Hmm.
middle of the summer. So most internships don't let you take a 4 week break, but this one happened to end just before that one would have
Oh,
started. So
it would have been perfect.
it would have been perfect. And now it's just like, ah, and I just can't like easily let it go.
Okay.
And part of
We're gonna need to.
right, because part like just the language, if I'm like, it's time to let it go, right?
Yeah.
It'll be easier. But I keep telling myself, oh, this is excruciating. And then it feels excruciating. And if I
Yeah.
could be like, well, lesson learned. Oh
Well,
well,
it is
next time.
excruciating. Well, okay, but the reason that this is happening is because you feel like there was a part of it you probably could have controlled, or like maybe it feels like a personal failure as a parent or something. I don't know. Why does it bother you so much?
Um, I just feel pain on her behalf, and it's odd because of all my kiddos, and she was the first one, so it might be something
I
to do with
see.
that.
Okay.
Like I
That's
just
sweet.
like if this happened to my 18-year-old who actually turned 19 yesterday,
Mhm.
I would just be like, like toughen up, dude, rub some dirt on it. But somehow I'm just like wired to like just have this like excruciating internal like suffering whenever I feel like she's suffering.
Well, she's trying really hard too, and you can see that. I'm not saying he's not trying, but he's just a little bit more lax about everything. So when she
He's
Which,
actually leveled up quite a bit since some
oh,
of the
good.
previous conversations we've had. He's been like crushing it in school. And yeah.
Awesome.
And he actually like applied to like 20 internships for the
Damn.
summer, none of which he will get because
Oh,
he's like a freshman and they're wanting like people with a couple more years. So it's hard
okay.
to compete. Um, but even that's been like a challenging process for me to just watch him like hustling and feeling like, like poor dude, this isn't going to pay off. And then he's going to be trying to like get a job at like Chipotle or something. And it's, and that,
Yeah.
even that is hard. That is hard to do. Like last summer, he tried to get like multiple jobs and ended up with nothing. So I'm
Oof.
surprised that happens again. But this gets back to that conversation I was having with the parents in the office around laissez-faire versus like getting in there and trying to help. And their concern was like, well, if we like do it for them, are we like, disempowering them and like enabling them to just, never have to learn this stuff? And where I feel like there's important like areas to explore as a parent is not that you want to do it for them, but you want to do it with them. And part of what you want to be doing specifically is some of the like details of whether it's like prioritizing like time of day for when you're doing schoolwork or homework or studying, or whether it's things like the job hunt. We as like adults who have been in our adult mind for like, many, many years, our executive functioning skills of like breaking down tasks into manageable parts,
Right.
prioritizing our time, stuff like that
Mm.
are really advanced, right? If it's time to be like, let's write a cover letter, we can as like,
We can shoot it out.
right, we can shoot it out and it's not a big deal.
Right.
But for our kids, that stuff can feel very intimidating and they don't know where to start. So we don't want to do it for them because that doesn't actually help them learn how to navigate through this. But if we do it with them, they can kind of see the steps that we're going through and we're sort of transmitting the experience of having an executive functioning process around breaking down these tasks into something that's more manageable. And I think that's
Yes.
necessary. I think it's much easier for me to jump online and find like 5 or 6 jobs or internships that one of my kids can apply for. If
Because they
if
don't
they
know
were
how to.
they don't know how to and they don't know exactly like what to look for and how to like weed through different jobs and see if they're qualified. Like they can kind of bumble along, but it takes longer and it's less effective and it's more emotionally draining for them doing it on their own. And they tend to not get, the same sort of results because it's just so uphill. And that's where I feel like as parents, like we can join with them and help them through this. And if it's like, hey, this summer, go check out like college classes at Front Range and see what might be interesting and go after it and let me know what you come up with. That can be a task that just never happens for our teenage kids, but literally it would take like 5 minutes for us as parents. And the question of like, well, shouldn't it just take them 5 minutes too? Like, how do they not do
No.
this? All you got to do is like Google, how do I like look at summer classes at Front Range Community College, and AI will like tell you pretty accurately how to do it. Like you can do this stuff, but that is an executive function that we have
Right.
had decades to practice, and we're not in our teenage brain where there's like so much emotional stuff going on and there's so many like worries and priorities that have
Right.
nothing to do with like
I remember when I was a teenager, the executive functioning was really hard for me because I was overwhelmed with social anxiety. I was trying to find my place in the world. I felt kind of depressed and my self-esteem was kind of down, even though everything was like seemingly fine. Like I had a lot of friends, like, but I still struggled with my own stuff and was trying to understand that because I was never modeled that, like how to process a lot of things from my parents, right? who
Right.
were hustling because they were first generation immigrants trying to understand a new um, language and a new culture. Um, it was hard for me to do the basics. And I remember being judged by people, like feeling judged by counselors and stuff like that, like school counselors and stuff like that, when they're like, why didn't you just do this? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like I've got this huge fear in the background constantly dictating everything I think about.
Yeah. I absolutely. We're running up against time, but I really want to dig into that in the next podcast. So
Yeah.
let's wrap this one up, and then I just want to pick up right there because I want to
Okay.
get into some of the like developmental psychology that
Exactly.
is working against them at this age.
Good.
All right. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks for listening.
Therapy dudes, take away your stress, put you in a good mood. If you had them over, they would eat up all your food. It's time for therapy dudes. Therapy dudes.
Oh no. Where's the button?